Hey guys, welcome back to Endeavor. So tonight we're working on stick stuff. Now, I'm not here to do like stick defense as a whole. As far as we're concerned, it's super basic. Like get high covers, essentially crash the gate, right? Get inside of the stick because it's the most dangerous part is being on the outside. Control the stick, and then if we're being honest, I'm really just gonna beat the living shit out of the guy until he drops the stick. I'm not too concerned about stick fighting in that close. And again, especially if you're talking, you know, an unskilled or untrained fighter. But what we were working on tonight was different variations of disarms, and there's thousands of ways to do it. But we were just kind of playing with a couple, and I'm a firm believer in if there's one that you're really comfortable with and it makes the most sense for you, do it. And I could give two shits less what anybody else thinks about it. If I can perform it, it's relatively practical and it makes sense in a moment, then awesome, right? So we worked on a couple, gave you guys a couple options to work with. So based off of what we do, which is just this basic kind of high covers crash the gate, we have a couple variations. So the first one is I end up finding myself with an overhook. So boom, crash the gate, and I'm getting this big, thick overhook. Now, we're gonna assume that I've already beat the living snot out of this guy, just for the sake of this video particularly. And we're gonna talk about a couple of really basic takeaways. One of the first ones, most primal and basic, I'm gonna get down to essentially where the wrist is at, so where he's holding on to it. I'm literally pulling my elbow into my rib cage, hand staying into the body, and I'm essentially punching the shoulder and the body through this way nice and fast, boom, and essentially just pulling the stick from him there. Whether it stays in my arm or just goes flying, doesn't really matter. If it stays in my arm, you can grab onto it, things like that. Same idea, same concept, boom, I go overhook. Now I'm gonna go for the same position for the most part, but I'm gonna go a little deeper. So now I end up with my elbow pulling down on the stick, and my hand's essentially where his wrist is gonna be at. I'm gonna get a hold of where the wrist is at, and now I'm gonna punch essentially the same exact position, moving it this way. Benefits are there's a little bit of extra stuff that you can now grab onto, and I get a clear-cut grip, you know, if I wanna go that direction, right? So there's two you can kind of play with. The other one we're gonna get into from the overhook position, I find myself in this overhook. Now I'm gonna actually pitch him, get his head through. This is obviously under the assumption that I've got him nose over toes, right? So he's off balance anyway, or that he's giving me a pushing motion, I can take advantage of it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a chop step backwards and essentially push his face towards the floor this way. So I'm holding that same elbow tight grip, step back, boom, punch the head towards the floor, and I have him down here on the ground. I hold nice and tight, he's already got pressure on the wrist, I can get knees in if I want to, finish from that position. And again, whether the stick stays in your possession or not, in reality, not a huge deal. If I want to grab it and there's somebody else coming to hit me, I can utilize it if I need to. So that's if I end up with an overhook. I can also end up with an underhook, based on whether my hands were down when I started, and you kind of get into this. Some of the traditional Krav Maga guys, this is kind of how you set up anyway. So no matter what happens, arms up, arms down, I put myself into an underhook position. One of the more traditional variations that you'll see, you know, especially from the Krav system, is that I stretch myself, or I stretch him out rather, again, assuming we've already made our strikes. I go pinky up on the stick, trace to the high end of it, and I essentially do this U-punch and clear from there. Definitely an option. One thing we want to point out is if the stick gets kind of weird, where it's pointed straight back, I don't want to give up my back to do this defense. So don't be reaching way far back here to get a hold of the stick. If you can't get a hold of the stick clearly from that position, giving up your back makes no freaking sense, right? So just keep that in mind, grab on the stick, try to get a little length on it. One of my favorites from this position, if I do end up in an overhook spot, is essentially kind of the same concept as far as just kind of ripping him down. What I'm gonna do is I have a really nice tight grip here. I'm gonna take my other hand, grab onto my wrist, I'm gonna punch my left shoulder to my right hip, which is essentially gonna break down on his body. And then if I want to, I can actually take some chop steps back, put him into the floor here, and then essentially have a position I can clear and move from there. Again, just some fun stuff to play with. That's if I get grips on the arm. One of the other things as far as endings for stick defense goes is I can actually use this high covers position to either take the back or even throw a takedown. So I get in, same basic idea, high covers. If he's elevated real high, I just go for a basic duck under, end up around his back, and then what I want to do from the back is based off of what you know. Basic striking, I can get control of the stick hand here. If I want to, I can even wrap and gift wrap here if I get into that spot. I can freaking back body suplex if I want to. Super funsies, right? And then the last one that we generally work with, which we do based off the FTF curriculum, off their machete stuff, is actually a little double leg. So I'm going to start same way, boom, high covers position. He's committing his weight forward, I'm going to kind of sneak in, and then what I'm going to do is turn the corner. So I get a hold of the legs, head goes up, boom, turn the corner from there, and now I've got a stick guy on the floor, I'm top position. Whether I want to get down and control from there, punt him in the head and run, is completely kind of up to it. So again, realistically, he does stick, I'm gonna get here, cover it, and just beat the living snot out of him until he drops it. But you know, still, if I need to get a hold of the stick a little bit sooner and move, it's good to have a couple of options. Preferably find the one or two you feel really good with and work those ones. Don't overcomplicate it. But every now and again, it's kind of fun to play with some different things. So try that stuff out, see what you think. Again, it's really gonna come down to personal opinion and how you feel about it. And yeah, have fun with it. See you guys later.